Funny thing about money or wealth is there's always someone richer than you. At that time, the quote was Dubai, Mumbai, or goodbye. Leadership is dealing with people. Leadership is understanding how to carry the organization sort of with you. My single piece of advice would be to try and put yourself in different situations.
Hello, welcome JoJo's Cross Borders. Today we have a Chetan Singh, Senior Managing Director at Evercom. He's gonna share with us his cross-border experience in finance industry. We're also gonna find out why he quit his job at JP Morgan as a Managing Director. All right, after knowing for so many years, I still don't know how to pronounce your name. Chetan.
Yes, that's good enough.
I got it after practice, yeah. Okay, thank you so much for having you here. And then please introduce to our audience who you are, okay?
Yeah, I'm Chetan Singh. I'm living in London here. We play tennis together, and it's been fun sort of, getting to know you over the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, more than that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can see up and downs. Yeah. So, except a tennis player, who you are in terms of what do you do for work?
Yeah. So, I've been an investment banker for majority of my career, not all of my career, and we can sort of get into it. But I studied economics. I went into banking very early on as an analyst, working crazy hours here in London, and then sort of rose through the ranks. And in the middle of my career, I left investment banking, moved to one of my clients as head of M&A and strategy for them. And after having sort of done 5-6 years of that sort of full restructuring, returned to investment banking.
Okay, so it's a banker. Can I say that?
Yeah, banker is good.
Yeah, banker. So, but the banker, you are the only banker, which is, I'm allowed to say that's your previous title, which is the managing director at JP Morgan UK.
Yeah. I mean, yes, if you want to. I don't know about the only banker.
Bankers are so sensitive. They say that when I interview, that's there's a lot of red tapes. I cannot say things like that, right?
Yeah. Well, JP Morgan. If I was still working at JP Morgan, then I would have had to get a lot of clearances in-house before sort of speaking with you.
Yeah. But by saying that, you open up my questions. You said this when you were in JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Right. So you left JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What make you, after being a managing director in JP Morgan, and then you left to another place, which is called the
Robbie Warshaw. So let me sort of walk you through that journey. Obviously, I spent most of my time in big firms, right? So I started my career at Citigroup. I worked at JP Morgan, and I also worked at Aviva, which was one of my clients. But after having amassed 25 years of experience in these big firms.
25 years, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm not telling you that, but you can guess.
Right, yeah, 25 years, okay. Good.
I thought I'd do something more entrepreneurial and use my knowledge, my relationships, my skills, my reputation to largely work for myself. So I joined a small partnership called Robbie Warshaw, which had 4 partners, and I became the 5th partner in the organization.
Wow, okay. So basically, I know this move. When you moved, I was so shocked. I said, what? Because I can guessing how much money you made as an MD, and then who wants to quit the job unless you did something wrong and get fired?
Yeah.
But actually, it's not that case. And then we talk about you want to do something differently. Give yourself a chance, right? After 25 years of corporate life.
Yeah, the funny thing about money or wealth is there's always someone richer than you, there's always someone poorer than you. So, I feel it's better to, we live only once, and it's better to pursue whatever gives you sort of happiness and where you can sort of really make impact. What I found during my time at JP Morgan, particularly the second stint, was it was a large organization. I was in a very good seat. I was responsible for the European financial institutions business within investment banking together with another colleague. But as it goes with very large organizations, it comes with a lot of bureaucracy. So there were sort of a lot of time that was spent internally in the organization thinking about sort of how the business is doing vis-a-vis other colleagues and updating people flying in from New York and so on and so forth. And less of my time was was available to be spent with clients and doing real M&A deals sort of out in the industry. So the move to this partnership was partly fueled by my desire to spend more time with clients and less time in a large bureaucratic organization.
Yes, you figure out that basically you wasted a lot of energy dealing with those red tapes or things which is not like it's kind of a drain.
And look, it's important to have that bureaucracy and red tape in large organizations.
Oh yes,
because,
absolutely, for management.
There are hundreds and thousands of employees. If you don't have some structure, how can you sort of make sure everyone's pulling their weight and sort of making impact? So it was a career choice to be in a smaller environment, in a more entrepreneurial environment, and use my experience and background to build my own little sort of business, together with other partners.
Do you have any hesitations when you make such a shift? Hesitation in terms of income, security, hesitation from family? Any hesitations?
Many hesitations, and I think the big one was like giving up such a valuable seat that I had
exactly.
at JP Morgan.
I want to be an auntie.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a great sort of seat, but as I said, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Spoke to my close friends, spoke to my wife, and I said I should just pursue what I really wanted to do and what would make me happy. And the quality of the partners I was joining was fantastic. Sir Simon Roby is well known, in the financial industry, having spent sort of over 4 decades sort of in this industry. I have George Osborne, who's the sort of Chancellor of the Exchequer, also
as one of your
the
partner
partners.
there. Oh wow! Is that because of him you moved there?
No, not particularly, but it helps to have that caliber of
course,
sort of
a
people
former
around
chancellor,
you.
right?
And Simon Warshaw, I should also mention, used to run UBS investment banking. So very high quality people, very high quality sort of bankers in the Roby Warshaw sort
the
of
five partners, right?
But also the junior resources and the people who work with top quality resources.
Oh, right.
So it's been a lot of fun, working in a small townhouse in Mayfair as opposed to a huge building in Canary Wharf.
But you moved to the huge building again, right? What happens after 5? 9 months, right? Tell me about that.
1
1 year. Okay.
At Roby Warshaw. So we got acquired by another larger partnership called Evercore.
US is
it's US listed.
Banking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Evercore has about 2,500, I think, employees, and
globally.
So a bit more than 22 that we had at Roby Warshaw, but a lot lower than JP Morgan's 250,000.
Oh yeah.
Right. So one of the things I did miss at Roby Warshaw compared to JP Morgan was the fact that it was a very that I did not benefit from JP Morgan's global network. Right. At JP Morgan, I had colleagues in the US, in Asia, in Europe, and, we would collaborate and brainstorm and think about sort of, topics that are very cross-border.
Yes.
And that has been a very important part of my career, throughout. So Evercore brings that sort of globality sort of back to my work, because they have a big US office. They're expanding in continental Europe. There's an office in Asia, Singapore and Hong Kong and Tokyo and so on and so forth.
Sounds as a perfect fit for you, because
it's sort of halfway, maybe not halfway. I mean, it's somewhere in between. Sort of, if Roby Warshaw was on this end and JP Morgan was in sort of this end, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. So that's I once make a joke about you, like after you left your golden spoon, like a chair, and then you make a leap for the elites, like a UK small firm. Overall, you make make like how much money? I found like I calculate like a 40 million US dollars.
I did not make that.
I know. You said I never believe it, but the deal is like nearly 200 million US dollars, right?
Yes, Evercore paid
that's
just
amazing.
around $200 million.
That's absolutely amazing. That's also show that's being an entrepreneurship, like you allow yourself explore the business opportunity, which is directly related to your own benefits, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Can I pull you back to talk about your career? Because here, as you mentioned, that's like you have a global experience. Like when you work for JP Morgan, I know who you are, I know your experience. But can you describing like what make you have such a rich like international marketing experience, not marketing, like financial markets experience, like from it's just because of you coming from India or your study or the branches you work for? I mean, what make you so international?
So it's a combination of definitive career choices by me, and a bit of luck, a bit of sort of what the state of the economy was. So if you go right back, I grew up in India, but then I left India to work in Switzerland. So I did a year and a half with Citigroup in Switzerland in an internship, in a traineeship, and it was sort of part of a student-led global cross-border initiative. It was an organization called ISEC, which is in 200 countries, and it's totally student-led. And its main purpose was to promote internationalism and cross sort of border experiences.
Wow!
So through ISEC, I was able to go from New Delhi all the way to Zurich. And they organized all the logistics around it, and I worked at Citigroup for a year and a half, and I really enjoyed working in Europe. I decided that I should pursue my career in Europe, but I had never been educated in Europe, so I went to Italy, to Bocconi University to do a master's in economics, to understand sort of how the economic world in Europe in particular sort of looks like and behaves. There was a very important investment in myself, in my sort of career, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I was the only Asian in class, let alone sort of being the only Indian. I mean, today you will have a lot of Chinese students, Indian students, in typical sort of master's degrees, but back then,
which is 50 years ago.
50 years ago, exactly.
Wow, you're the only one.
And it was very interesting because I started my journey at Bocconi in from an education perspective in Europe, and I didn't realize that actually so much of the grade depended on class participation.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you grow up in India, and I think as you do in China, you go there, you listen to the teacher, you memorize things, you take notes, and that's how you develop your brain.
Yeah.
Over here in Europe, I was faced at Bocconi, and I'll talk about my MBA at INSEAD.
Yeah.
With Bocconi and INSEAD, it was case studies, it was classroom discussions, it was class participation. So you could not go there, read the textbook, sit in sort of one corner and just
remember that,
memorize that, and like let the teacher come in and sort of tell you what the answers are, so you can memorize. You actually have to have a proper, so it encourages you to think sort of quite outside the box and understand different perspectives and so on and so forth. So that was really valuable, and that helped me get my first proper job, which was an analyst at Citigroup in investment banking in London.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
from Italy.
From Italy, exactly. I came to the UK.
Yourself?
Just myself. And then I signed my life off to investment banking. And by the way, the myth is true. You know, if you're a junior investment banker, at least back then, it's a bit better now, you had to work quite long hours. So my typical day was 9 a.m. to midnight in the office, 6 days a week. So 90-hour weeks were very normal.
But coming from India, you can deal with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, everyone in was doing it, and those who couldn't cope would sort of gradually leave the industry. And some of us who did stay, then you naturally got promoted, and it was that up or out sort of culture.
Yeah.
So I came here.
Yeah.
This was actually early 2000s. So now you can sort of gauge this was like over 25 years ago, and we had the first major crisis that I saw, and there was a major stock market correction, and the economic activity was like really, really low, and banks had to react, and
it's like an earthquake in financial
absolutely.
industry. Yeah.
So the bank was encouraging some of the stronger performing analysts to go and do a master's degree, to take a year out, so it's easier on the firm, and you're not just sitting in the office doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
and the bank paid for it.
Bank paid for it.
I know
but
that.
This was for a master's in finance at London Business School.
Oh, so you ECS, you need to fund yourself then.
But I went to HR and I said, I've on my own merit gotten into the MBA program at INSEAD.
Yeah.
Please, can I get the same deal? And I go there. They said, yeah, fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had a lovely time at INSEAD because, it's a very intense 1-year program. And there are 3 things that are ideal if you could sort of focus on, where you can only pick 2 out of the 3 to do it well. So first pillar is socializing, getting to know everyone, going to all the house parties or chateau parties, and engaging with sort of your fellow students in the forests of Fontainebleau. The second is actually paying attention in the classroom and studying, because the class participation, you have to read the case studies in advance and then sort of commit to it, and so on and so forth. And third is finding a job.
Yeah.
Right. These are 3 things people generally do in business schools.
Right. Yeah.
So I knew exactly the job I was going back to, so that pressure was completely off.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I had a blast, mingling with people and spending proper time in the classroom, learning about. So we had just to put this in perspective, every course had about 15 or so lessons, of which we would cover like 10 case studies.
Oh, wow.
And we had like 20 such different courses, like finance and marketing and economics and psychology.
Really
So imagine 20 times 10, 200 case studies were discussed in a classroom of 75 people. And you're hearing different perspectives, a consultant, an ex-doctor, an ex-industrialist, an ex-entrepreneur, an ex-banker. So actually you absorb so much knowledge and information that actually can't be quantified, but it certainly helped my career. So I did that in 2003, then went back to investment banking in London.
Who paid for your tuition fee? Yeah.
Exactly. So then I was with Citigroup from that period all the way to 2010.
So altogether it's about seven years.
Yeah. So 2 years before INSEAD, and then sort of another, I would say, call it 6-7 years after that. And then we had the next crisis, which was the global financial crisis. Right. So again, at that time, the quote was Dubai, Mumbai, or goodbye. European markets were
so
dead,
funny.
American markets were dead, all the action was in Asia, the tiger economies from Southeast Asia, China was growing, Japan wanted to deploy capital, Middle East was coming up. So
what did you do to avoid a goodbye?
So I moved to Singapore.
Oh dear. Good.
With JP Morgan. So I interviewed with JP Morgan. I left Citigroup. Citigroup was under a lot of pressure from a viability perspective. JP Morgan had emerged from the crisis as one of the strongest banks. So I moved from Citigroup in London to JP Morgan in Singapore. And I spent 6 years in Singapore covering financial institutions and actually starting that business for JP Morgan in Southeast Asia and India.
So you start that business?
I mean, there was someone who'd done some business before, but when I joined, there was no director or MD responsible for that business.
All right, yeah. So from pulling you from Italy, INSEAD and UK experience, and then relocate yourself to Singapore. So did you experience like it's a culture shock, or in your industry, what the values you have and the
actually, it's very interesting. The receptivity to have someone who has been trained in the UK, has been educated in Europe, was immensely valuable. Because if you think about investment banking, the largest and most complex deals either happen in the US or in Europe.
Yeah.
Asia is a bit sort of behind.
Yeah.
And Asia was just being so many clients of JP Morgan were very interested to hear from me, to hear my thoughts, some ideas, how things were done in London, what could they learn from my experience in London, and sort of bring that to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok and Singapore and Jakarta and obviously Mumbai.
Oh, okay. So that time is like you bring the mature experience.
I had already worked in the industry for sort of close to 10 years.
For 6 years, yeah.
Right. And then I brought that experience to Singapore. Then I worked in Singapore for 6 years and built a very strong business.
Oh, right.
And then, it was during that time that I got promoted to managing director from director at JP Morgan.
Yeah.
And we started a family. And
Your
it was
son was
time.
born in Singapore.
My son was born in Singapore.
Yes, no, stay there.
And then
come on here. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. She get used to about like a stay in the camera.
Welcome. We have audience.
We have an audience here. Yeah. Sorry.
And then it was time for our children to I had to plan where I wanted my children to mainly sort of get educated, where should they go to school, and so on and so forth. So at the back of my mind, there was that desire to move back to the UK, right? UK was, I've lived in 8 different countries. I really enjoyed my time in the UK. I consider it a home, and wanted to come back so they could go to schools here in the UK. So I started looking, and I had the option to move back to the UK with JP Morgan. But I chose to leave JP Morgan and move to a client of mine who I was helping in Aviva, which is a large sort of financial services company, insurance, wealth, retirement. So it's a major sort of business. So I joined Aviva as head of M&A and strategy in the year 2016 when I moved back. And over the next 5 years, completely transformed Aviva, and did over 25 transactions for Aviva as principal.
25?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Including 8.
How much altogether?
Including 8 in 1 year during COVID, sitting on Zoom calls that raised almost £8 billion. For
£8 billion
Aviva.
During the COVID, sitting in front of the Zoom calls.
Yeah, it was a crazy work day.
So COVID, you're not alone.
I would start my day in the morning speaking to the management team of Aviva France, and then go into negotiations on Poland, and then read the legal documents on Italy, and then in the evening, talk to some buyers about Aviva Turkey. So it was literally like that every day.
So basically, COVID lockdown time is a full-time job for you.
It made me very efficient because everyone was sat at home doing the same thing, right? In a traditional world, if I was selling Aviva France, I would be physically in Paris, only focused on selling Aviva France.
Yes.
Here, I could focus on the key meeting for 3 hours, and then move on to Italy, or Poland, or Turkey, or Singapore.
Okay, wow. So you really benefit the lockdown. Yeah, because everybody is sitting in front of the screen for you, be able to finish the
all the lawyers, all the counterparts, everyone was doing business from home in front of Zoom screens.
Right, okay. So is there any of the Asian backgrounds like you did in Singapore help you to contribute any of the deals you've done with Aviva?
Yeah, because about 7 or 8 of those transactions were all in Asia. So we did transaction in Hong Kong, 2 transactions in Hong Kong, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, all of those.
Yeah. So this cross-border experience is as you say, going home is not going home. It's enriched your experience, your scope, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, you went back to JP Morgan again.
Yeah. So I had done the transformation. The work was largely done. Aviva is now a very focused business in the UK, Ireland, and Canada. And it was a lot more about organic growth and not as much corporate finance activity, although Aviva's continued to be busy in the corporate finance world. So I said, let me use this experience of being actually the client for 5 years, 6 years.
Oh, yes, fresh experience from the...
Back as a banker. So I returned to JP Morgan. And as I said at the outset, I was responsible for the financial institutions business in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Europe, Middle East, and then
Africa, which are much smaller businesses. It's mainly sort of Europe, which is the biggest business.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So then cross-borderly, you how to say that's like embrace all that experience from the UK, Europe, and down to Singapore, and now move to JP Morgan and they cover the whole, like 360, no, not 360,
not Asia.
270, not Asian, yeah,
Exactly.
okay, yeah. But now with the new company, like it's a US base, so now it's cover the US as well, right?
Less so. My clients, so then now in my entrepreneurial sort of world, I've decided to focus mainly on the UK clients. Right, so the big life insurance companies, the big banks, we've done 2 or 3 deals with them, but I will have the benefit of having global partners. So if one of my clients wants to sell a US business or buy something in the US, I have partners with Evercore in New York who I can sort of bring on board and be part of the team and sort of give that cross-border advice to clients.
Yeah, so the home is still UK.
Home still the UK.
Yeah.
Well, unless Rachel Reeves decides to go completely mental on tax, it's still the UK.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
All right. Thank you so much for today. Give us your personal growth and the career experience as well.
Thank
then
you.
we can see that it's so important as an executive, having a cross-border experience, adding a lot of value for your career.
Absolutely. Look, I would, anyone starting their careers right now, my single piece of advice would be to try and put yourself in different situations that actually makes you uncomfortable for the first 10 years of your career.
Yes.
So move countries, move jobs, work with different people, enrich yourself, invest in your education. And then once you become an expert in one subject, which takes 10 years, then you can see the benefits of that in the latter stages of your career.
And then can you give also another advice for the Chinese executives, how to be thrive in international career platform?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that we've seen a lot of Indians be successful in the UK, in the US, in the corporate world. I think we are seeing sort of
less Asian face.
Less Asians, but we're beginning to see more of that, and those are people who have been educated in the US.
Yes, yeah, ABCs or BBCs, not from mainland China.
Not from mainland China.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to do with the education system, really.
Education system, not education, because I know majority of Chinese, overseas Chinese, they graduate from Cambridge or Oxford. So education system, what do you mean education system?
It's the type of education. So if you go to an American school over here, the way they teach kids is very different from a St. Paul's Girls' School or a Westminster school. Right? And I've experienced both. In India, you grow up and the emphasis is on textbooks and memorizing, whereas in the Western world, it's about encouraging you to think more, I should say, American world, it's more about encouraging you to think outside the box and challenge and bring your ideas and not sort of just receive orders from your boss, your school teacher.
Yeah.
There's no spoon. Here's your task and I'll do that task really well. That will not work in leadership. Leadership is dealing with people. Leadership is understanding how to carry the organization sort of with you. And for that, you need to have social skills. You need to be able to understand how people are thinking. You need to be able to communicate with them. You need to be inclusive, in the boardroom, in an executive room, and that comes with different kind of education and different style of education, which we see mainly in the American system.
I see. Okay, so what you say, education system, not just the education, it's all the whole system built who you are, and then including like the relationship, the social, the thinking, the critical thinking, creative thinking as well.
I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, why is it that most innovation, majority of the innovation comes from the US and US companies?
Yeah.
Right. That's I come from India. The level of innovation in India is very, very low. India can assemble really well. India can manufacture really well. China can do some of that even better.
Similar thing, yeah.
Right. But real innovation, and forward thinking happens in the US.
Majority, yeah, right. Okay, thank you so much for the conversation and your insight for all of this, for the executives and then for the future leaders.
Absolutely. Pleasure.